Okay, this is the login screen for the application. I'm going to log in right now. And this is the main menu. This is the main menu. There's a very, very simple user interface for managing users. Only admin users see it. Right now there's only 3 users defined. If I go into modify myself, you'll see that I am an admin user. And this is really cut and dry, very simple. We use LDAP authentication. These campus keys hit up against our LDAP server, and that's what we use for authentication, and then the user table is there for authorization. The next item on the main menu is modify server name and last update date. This is the last time I updated the publication database. Right now I'm manually modifying this. At some point I am going to make this so that whenever I save a publication, this will get updated. I just haven't done that yet. This is the full name of our cancer center. This is the abbreviated name for our cancer center. What this application allows you to do is have 3 different public program structures at the same time, and each program structure each program structure represents 3 different program scenarios. So the first one is the historical publication structure, program structure, and that's basically in that structure all publications and members are listed in the programs they were in when the publication was created. And that sort of gives you a historical view of the publications for each program. The second one is a proposed program structure, and what happens is a lot of times when we come out for a site visit, some people, because of changing interest in their research or changes in anything else, changing, or a program is being closed down and a new one's being updated. For some reason, you might have a different program structure than what is your current program structure. And so this second alignment allows you to have that. And what we do is usually for a full cycle of the core grant, we'll put everybody's publications with their program in the current proposal, as opposed to where they were when the publication was. And the reason we did that, the rationale behind that, is that we thought site visitors would like to see all of Dr. John Doe's publications with his current program that he's in the application, even though 2 years ago he was in a different program. And also, if you're reviewing that different program, you don't want to see John Doe's publications from 2 years ago and before that when he's not even in the program. So that's the rationale for that. Also, if we were doing this manually, you would take a list of members and grab their publications, put them together in a list, and that's sort of what this simulates most. Except for we do keep some publications from members who have left. If they're in that program when they left, then their publications will show up until they left, when we stop gathering their publications. And the third one is just in case you have a different structure. Maybe you're thinking about having this program instead of that program, so you can have 2 different structures. And there's a consortium variable, which actually I'm not using yet. We are a consortium cancer center, and there are some things involved in consortium cancer centers in this application. But right now it's not really triggered off of this variable. They're there no matter what. What I might do is, if you have no on this, I might remove those things. But right now they're in there, whether you say yes or no here. Okay, next is center programs. Okay, a program can be active or inactive, and it's very easy to make it inactive or active. Right now, all the active programs are on top, and that's because of the sorting number, which is not the best way to sort things. It was something I put together real fast. As you can see, we've at our cancer center have moved on from having numeric codes linked to programs like here to having a more mnemonic code for our programs, an abbreviation, an acronym. Any rate, so these are the current active programs, and you'll see, like, this is a developing program, so it's not in the current historical program list, but it is in the proposed program listing. And if I click on that, you'll see how you can change any of these things. You can change active and inactive here, as well as on the main list, the program listing there. And also, you can say this program is active in the current program structure, any one of these 3 program structures that I was talking about. Alright, so that's the programs. We go to members. Alright, there are members, and right now I'm just showing active members, so that's how many active members we have. If I did this, this would show all the members we've had since, I think I have this going back to the year 2000. So that'll include members that are no longer in programs and no longer active members. So going back to just active members, as you can see, Imad Al-Namri is an active member. He's in all 3 program scenarios. He is in the CCBS program, which is a cancer cell biology and signaling program. And as you can see, here's a person, Jane Aziz Khan Clifford. If I go into her thing, that's her name. She formerly published under this name, so her publications may show up with this name. But we all have the alternate search, which uses her full name, her hyphenate name. And as you can see, she's currently in the BBC program, but both of our current proposal for the next site visit, she's going to be in molecular biology and genetics programs. Alright, and one other thing to show you there is if I go and I look for, this is Jianka Zhang. One other thing I want to show here is, so we have this alternate search for him and also this main search for him. But his main search, which still has to be this because it still has to be his last name for space initial, because we use that for doing author matching. But I don't actually want to do this search because this search will always come back with too many publications. So in this case, I'm telling it to skip the primary PubMed search and just do this more custom PubMed search. And as you can see, Jianki's in CCBS in all 3 program scenarios. Alright, so that's that. To modify already loaded publications, so as you can see, right now there's 6,070 publication records in our database. They are sorted right now by row ID, descending order of row ID, so this was the last publication added. If we were go to 1, I can show you this is the information that we're loading from PubMed. This backup field here, it would be filled if we did an update, which I'll explain later, but right now it's empty because this publication was recently added and hasn't been updated since it's been added. It's got a link to the abstract, which will go off and show us PubMed if we want to see that, the PubMed record for this and the abstract for this. And you could also go to the link to the journal from PubMed. Now this is the data you can enter. It's in this case, is this intra-consortium? No, because both of these members are at Jefferson, so it's not involving two inter-consortiums, and since they're both Jefferson, it's not a Drexel pub or a Lemur pub. This field here will notify you that when we do an update, if this publication has been updated, it will, and this is marked, it will note that this publication has been updated, and that's mainly if you do any modifications that you want to do, and like for instance, if there were 300 authors in this, I might remove all but the Cancer Center members' authors, and then when I do an update, I'll have to go back and fix that again. And the only reason we're really going to, and I'll explain what the updates are in a minute. All right. Now, the other thing that's going on here is this. When we loaded this publication, it's comparing the authors on this publication to our member list, and it's suggesting that these are the potential Cancer Center members that were involved in this publication. And if you hit the use suggested one, it fills in these fields, which have, in this case, these two authors are both in the gastrointestinal cancer program in all three program scenarios. What else? So also, since we haven't done an update, there's nothing in this, but if you wanted to, you could see the actual XML that was loaded from PubMed. And the reason I'm saving that is right now we're not storing everything in the database. But if I want to go back and decide that there's another thing that was in that XML that I want, rather than have to go back and hit PubMed for every publication in the database, I could just go to that XML record and not bother hitting PubMed. Okay, so that's what the publication modification looks like. Right now you can't add publications. The only way the publications can be added is through pulling them from PubMed. There, maybe one day, will allow for actually adding publications that aren't in PubMed. All right. So, all right. What are the main menus? There's a remove publications from rejection list. And basically, what happens is when we do a bulk load publication for publications for our members, it will pull in any new publications. It'll give us a count of the new publications, and we have the ability for those new publications to either reject them or accept them. If they're accepted, they go into the publication database. If they're rejected, they go into a rejection table. And so the next time I do this bulk load for this author, that publication will just be in the rejected list, and I won't have to deal with it. I won't have to go through and figure out whether it's really a publication by R. D. Andrews or whether it's a publication for some other D. Andrews, not R. D. Andrews. Okay. So, and that's really just you type in some PubMed IDs and you hit remove, and it'll remove them. All right. So bulk load is where we actually do the pulling of the PubMed publications from PubMed. Usually go back 3 months, even though I'm doing this weekly or bi-weekly. I still go back 3 months because I want to avoid missing a publication that maybe only hit PubMed this week, but was actually had a publication date of a couple months prior. So I just tell it to go back 3 months, and it's not that bad because of that rejection thing that we just talked about. And you shall see this right here. So now, if you look at this, the first person here, Imad Al-Nemri had one publication in the last 3 months, and it's been already saved to our table. Now, someone like David Andrews, in the last 3 months, had 11 publications. That's people with the last name Andrews and the first initial D had 11 publications. 4 of them were actually our David Andrews, and they're already saved, and 7 were rejected because they were not our David Andrews. And now, if you look right now, there's one publication here for Andrew Applin. Again, there were 5 in the last 3 months for Applin A. 3 we saved and 1 rejected, and there's 1 new one that we have to review. So I click in here. Here's the 1 rejected publication. The other 3 are already in the database, so we don't even see them. And I can tell based on all these Jeffersons and showing up, and by looking at the email address here and also the full names, which is right here, that this is our Dr. Andrew Applin. So I'm going to add. If I went to reject, it would turn yellow like that, and it would go into the rejection table. But I'm going to actually add this one and say process. Now it just added the publication, and also notice that this journal, the Journal of Investigated Dermatology, does have a link record to our impact factor table, which means either it really has an impact factor, or if I've already run into this journal, if it doesn't have an impact factor, I've already run into this journal once before and created a link to an unknown impact factor record in the table. All right. Now, when I hit modify just added publications, you'll see right now it no matter what proposal we choose, this publication doesn't have anything in it because we haven't assigned authors to it. So if we click on here, we go down here. Now Andrew is a Jefferson member, so it's not a Drexel pub, and this publication actually has Adam Berger on it, who's also a Jefferson Cancer Center member. So it's not Intricate Consortium, it's not Drexel, it's not Labor. I'm not going to do any special editing here, so I don't care if this gets updated the next time we do an update. I don't want to know about it. But I will tell it to use the suggested members, and it has put author and program affiliations data in these fields here. And as you can see, Adam Berger is in biology of breast cancer in 2 of the 3 program scenarios, and the 4th he's in the 3rd one he's in CCBS, whereas Dr. Applin is in CCBS in all of them. Now when I hit Save Changes and I go back to that publication menu, you'll see that these things now have the current author program field now has data in it, and you'll see that the display text for the publication is highlighting those authors and has their program affiliations in that. And if I looked at the different proposals and hit search, the same thing happens, but now you'll see Berger is in CCBS instead of BBC. All right, so that's how we load publications. All right. Now, actually, if we wanted to go back and load more publications, we could go down here and do that, but I'm not going to do that now. The next thing is update publications. What that does is that's a function that will run once every few months and tell it to go back about 6 months and update any publications in the database that are 6 months old. And basically that's so that if you have EPUBs or ahead of print publications that might get page numbers added later, it'll go and it'll capture that data later. I'm not going to try that right now, but that's what that does. Adding publications, for some authors, although since I've been doing this, I haven't had to do this a lot. It's easier to just go to PubMed and get a list of PubMed IDs for that author and throw them in here, and this will add them, and then we can go and do the and link the authors and programs to that publication, just like we did for the ones that were done in the bulk load. All right, now so that's how the data gets into it. The publication display menu is where you get the publications out. All right, so here is the publication display menu. You can number the references, and then I'll just number them in whatever order they come out, 1 through 10. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not that. And you can use those numbers if you're doing a grant application. If those numbers are printed out, then you could use those numbers in your grant application because they'll refer to your listing. Now, the display publication date and row IDs are a third column which can show up in the listing. The first column usually has the number of the reference if you want to get numbered, plus any special markings. The second column is the actual publication text, and the third column has this row ID and pub date, which are displayed on the right. If you don't show publication date or row ID, that column won't even show up. You have the option to either include or not include a link to the PubMed abstract. For if you're going to be copying this into your grant, we suggest you don't. If you're doing research on what research your users are, if you're doing this as a program leader and you want to find out what research your program members are doing, you might want to click on the abstract and read the abstracts of some of the publications. All right, DOI and PII and PubMed central IDs are just different IDs that come out of PubMed, along with the PubMed ID, and you can choose to display them or not display them. Display the current impact factor. If you click on this and run the report, it will put the impact factor right after the journal name in square brackets, if there is one. If we don't have an impact factor because it's a newer journal, and I think that's really the only reason why they wouldn't have an impact factor, then it will just put UK for unknown. We have the option of only displaying publications with an impact factor greater than 9, and marking inter-institutional publications will get marked with this little section symbol. Like I said, you could only display the inter-institutional publications. We could do that, and we can highlight publications where the first member or the SKC member is a first or senior author. I'm not going to do that right now. That's just something that we've done because we need it for a special report. You can choose a date range, and you can choose sorting methods. I am right now going to sort this by row ID because I want to show that Applin publication. That will be the last publication in the list because of that. Now here's our 3 different program scenarios. For each scenario, you can show the whole entire Cancer Center bibliography from whatever date you choose, or you can show just for a given program or a given author if you want it. For this one, I'm going to do the entire bibliography and from 1013 on, and I'm going to do it with our second proposed structure. And here is the actual publication list. So this is an inter and intra. Intra is star, inter is plus. This is inter because you have more than one program involved. No one program contains all these authors. It's intra because in this case there's 2 people in the BPC program and 2 people in the CCBS program. So either one of those pairs makes this an intra-programmatic publication. Now here, if I scroll down here, this is a cancer research publication, which is marked with the double dagger. That means it's got an impact factor greater than 9. A lot of people say you should only look at impact factors greater than 10, but if you only look at impact factors greater than 10, then you're leaving out cancer research, PNAS, blood, a couple other journals, but those are some big journals that are not getting counted as high impact journals. And that's I mean, as I said, that's my personal opinion is 9 is a better cutoff than 10. But at any rate, so here you see some intra-programmatic publications because they're both in the same program. 2 authors are in the same program. Again, another cancer research, which is only got a impact factor of 9.2, which is not greater than 10. Now here's a Mall Aspects Med journal. I'm not even sure what that journal is. It's got an impact factor of 10.3, so it's greater than 10, and it has the signal dagger. Here's a JCI publication, which is intra-programmatic because it only has 2 members, and they're BPC. They're both BBC. It's intra-consortium because Dr. Knudsen is a Jefferson Cancer Center member, and Dr. Fatatis is a Drexel Cancer Center member. So it has both. So that's what the little section mark means, that this is an inter-institutional consortium publication. And so that's basically how those things work. And if I scroll all the way down, because I sorted this by row ID, the last publication should be the one that we just added, which it is. Adam Berger, Andrew Applin. And it's marked as intra because in this case they're both CCBS. If I were to rerun this and tell it to use the historical one, and if I scrolled all the way down to that last publication, it's going to say it's inter because in that program scenario, structure scenario, Berger is not in the same program as Apple. So it's just inter. Alright. So here you have it. These are our historical publications things. And actually I wanted to really look at one other thing here. If we go to just doing it for a program. Now this is a little bit different because in a program programmatic publication is any program where there's at least 2 members of this program in it. And inter means there's another program involved somewhere. So it's not the same thing. It's not. You could have a publication on the main list or an author list that comes out as inter. It comes out as inter and intra, but in this one, it's just going to be coming from the perspective of the program. And it'd be nice if I could find one like that. But at any rate, so if I had 2. Let's see if I can actually find one here. And also the other thing you'll notice is that in the programmatic listing, when you do have somebody who's a member but not in this program, they're in italicized as opposed to they're italicized bold instead of just bold. And here's one of the programs we're saying. If I were to show this program, if I were to look at this publication in an author listing or a comprehensive bibliography listing, this would be marked both as inter and intra. But since we're just looking at it from the biology of prostate cancer program, it's just inter because there's only one biology of prostate cancer member. So it's not intra-programmatic from that. There are 2 GIC members, gastrointestinal cancer center members, which is why it would be in a normal list it would be considered intra, because that's an inter-programmatic relationship. But since this is specific to biology of prostate cancer, it's not. All right, and so that's the difference between a programming listing and either a complete bibliography listing or an author listing. And the other thing that I didn't show you before is at the ending we have these statistics, and as you'll see that this is a highly collaborative program. This particular program in biology prostate cancer is highly collaborative, having a high percentage of inter and intra programmatic publications. Also, if you look at the impact factors, they have a high percentage of publication in journals with impact factors greater than 10 and even higher and greater than 9. because, like as I said, cancer research, PNAS, blood are in those. And it's actually not even considering that there's 466 publications, and 12 of them are interinstitutional publications. So that's not bad either. That's why I chose this program to display. But so that's what the publication displays look like. And just to show you one other thing, if I were to go up here and say, do not display PubMed, do not display this internal row ID, and don't display the PubMed abstract, and I go back and do that same listing for, now you don't have this, you can actually copy and paste into the text into a Word document. It creates a Word table where the first column has the markings and the number, if you choose to use the number, and the second column has the text of the publication. Alright, so that's what the publication rendering, and you can do all kinds of different queries on here. The one last thing to show in this demo is a summary report. And this basically goes, like I said, I started collecting publications in 2007, but at that point we were going through going for a competitive renewal, and we went back to the beginning of our previous cycle, which was 2000, and I collected all the publications for anybody who was a member from 2000 on. And this listing is sorted by impact factor of the journal. So this journal, which is cancer, I think it's Canadian Cancer Journal Clinic, has an impact factor of 162.5. We have 8 in that journal overall, with 2007 being a year where we put 3. In New England Journal of Medicine, we have 8 publications over that span of years. Nature, we've got 15 publications over that span. As you can see, Journal of Clinical Oncology seems to be our highest journal of high impact factor that we publish in, with 88 publications over the last 16 years. And if you go all the way down, actually, PNAS, which only has an impact factor of 9.8. So if you use the 10 cutoff, we'd actually be losing 106 publications and 160 publications. There are a lot of publications, and these are pretty decent journals that you'd be cutting off if you use an impact factor cutoff at 10. And then after this, you'll have just the journals with impact factors less than 9. And these are the journals where they don't have an impact factor for one reason or another. And then there's just a total at the bottom. And that's it. That is the application. Alright, thank you.